Angie from MarriedToTheRoad.com, and I wanted to make a little video to kind of give you guys an update about what's been going on with the rioting and truckers. So as some of you may have known, we actually started a Facebook group last Tuesday. The purpose of it was to be like a modern day CB radio so that we can keep truck drivers safe and keep them informed on what areas that they should avoid, any highways that may have had rioting or protesting on it. So we actually started the group Tuesday morning, and today is, gosh, what day is it? Monday. So tired. So today is Monday, and we have over 1,400 members in there. This group is open to truck drivers and wives and moms of truck drivers, just to help keep them safe. So if you're interested in joining that group, you can go to Facebook, just look for Truckers Riot Safety 2020. So Truckers Riots Safety 2020. So the main reason that I actually put this group together was a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is during, and I want to make sure I say this correctly, during the riots, and I'm not saying protests because there's a huge difference between riots and protests, because personally I agree with the protests. As long as they're peaceful, I'm all for them. But during some of the rioting that was going on and some of the looting that was going on, we were seeing truck drivers being injured, and trucks being damaged, and trucks having rocks thrown at them. And so the whole reason we put together this group was to try to keep other truckers safe. So my main motivation was, as most of you guys know, Larry and I are FedEx truck drivers. And almost 2 weeks ago, there was a truck driver here where we live in St. Louis, Missouri. And they actually were driving on Highway 70, which we're very familiar with. And there was rioters on the highway, and they were blocking the highway and wouldn't let them through. So him and an Amazon Prime truck had to divert off the highway. And when they did that, they were ran into a bunch of more rioters. And as you can see by all the videos are online, they were breaking into the trailers, stealing packages, and banging on the trailers, banging on the cab. At one point there's indications and reports showing that the driver actually had somebody jump up on his steps in his cab and point a gun at his head. So anyway, my first thought process when I saw that video, before I knew exactly what happened, was if Larry and I had been in that situation, you know, I don't know what we would have done. That would have been a very scary situation. But what wound up happening was, if you watch the video, he actually blew on his horn for about 20 to 30 seconds trying to warn other riders that were around him that he was going to move. And he even screamed out of his window that he was moving his truck, but they didn't move. They wouldn't move. And he did not know that, but in between the two trailers on the dolly was a rider. And when he went to go take off, he fell off the dolly and fell underneath the back trailer wheel. And sadly, he wound up dragging him for quite a while, and he wound up dying. Now, after that happened, the riders were screaming that they wanted to have the FedEx drivers arrested and charged, because you could see the riders chasing after the driver and screaming and saying, you know, there's somebody underneath the truck. But you got to think of it from the driver's position. If he was in his truck and just had a gun pointed at him, and rioters and protesters all over around his truck, and you know, he doesn't know what's going on. And if you look at the video, there was around 50 of them, and I don't know if there was more on the street, but that's all that we saw. So he had a gun pointed at his head, and he had people threatening his life. He had to get out of there, so he did what he could. And the bad thing about it is, when he was taken off, the riders started chasing after his truck, screaming at him because they were trying to tell him that he was dragging somebody. But sadly, you know, the way I look at it is from the driver's perspective. If you see a bunch of people running after you who are just sitting there damaging your truck, you're not going to stop. You're going to keep on going, and that's what happened. So I don't know what's going to happen to him. They have said here in St. Louis, from everything I've read in the media, that he will not be charged. What FedEx does with him, I'm not sure. I'll be honest, a lot of times we have heard drivers get fired from FedEx for smaller offenses, so I would not be shocked at all if he got fired. And they have already, the family of the rioter who was killed has already filed a civil suit against them. So sadly, FedEx and the truck drivers are going to be having to face a civil suit. So while Larry and I completely agree with protesting because things have to change. That video of George Floyd was just the saddest thing I have ever witnessed. I think the saddest thing that most Americans have witnessed. It is a long time coming. I think changes need to happen. However, there's a difference between rioting and protesting. And when it comes to our truck drivers, and we're just trying to get from point A to point B to get our loads done safely, the last thing we need to be worrying about is people trying to block the highway or trying to damage our trucks. So that was the whole purpose of us putting together the site that we did. I'm going to talk in the next video about another truck driver, which I'm sure most of you guys saw the video on. It was a truck driver up in Minneapolis, and I'm going to kind of give you guys some updates on what's going on with that situation. Like I said, there's many truck drivers over the last 2 weeks that have been involved in incidents with rioters and protesters, and so our whole goal and purpose was just to provide one location that was safe. Once the rioting does slow down, then we will change that group over to just a regular truck site group, but we do have big plans for it, so we hope that you'll check it out. Like I said, it's free to family members to join and truck drivers alike. We don't discriminate. The only thing we ask is that there's no racial posting in there, no political posting, and try to keep it on topic, which means anything to do with rioting, protesting, or highway closures, accident closures, stuff like that. We're trying to keep our drivers educated. So the nice thing about the group is if you are, say, driving somewhere, say you're driving to Minneapolis this week, you can actually post in there, hey, I'm going to Minneapolis on Tuesday on this highway, visiting this city, how have things been up there, and kind of get an update. And then, you know, you can even actually say, hey, I'll be going to Memphis in 3 hours. Can you guys tell me how the highways are? So it's a great resource for truck drivers and their families, and we hope that you guys will stop by and check it out. Again, it's a Facebook group, so it doesn't cost anything to join. And but we just thank you all. We thank you guys for all your support, and we're just doing whatever we can to try to help keep our truckers safe. So thanks, everybody. You have a great week.